It's a pleasure to come your way once again. We are on chapter 3 of our book reflection from Dr. Myles Munroe's book, The Principles and Benefits of Change. In the previous chapter, we looked at the theme reacting to change, and we considered how it is our natural tendency as individuals, as human beings, to react to change rather than respond to change. And we looked at some key ways by which people typically react to change. And we considered, for instance, how some would deny or ignore change, how some will resist or defy change, how some will be angry at change, and so on and so forth. And we realized that these ways of reacting to change make us victims of change rather than victors of change. And there was one component of reacting to change, which is accepting change, which we mentioned that is good, is the first step towards responding to change rather than reacting to change. But if we leave off at just accepting change, we have not actually done ourselves good. So in today's chapter, we will be considering responding to change, chapter 3 of the book. And I hope that you would find it useful as always. Chapter 3, responding to change, has the sub theme essential life skills, preparing for the unexpected, initiating purpose. And it begins with a key quote, an anonymous quote: change is inevitable except from vending machines. And this is quite a funny quote, but it is deep. And we have established in the first two chapters of the book, especially in chapter 1, that change is inevitable. Change is inevitable. And this is a reality that each one of us must come to accept. Now, the chapter begins by telling us how nothing is more secure than the familiar. And so things that we do, things that we've experienced over time, memories that have become a part of us, makes it difficult for the most part for us to accept that change can happen at any time. And so with that understanding, we've gotten that change can happen with us, can happen around us, and can even happen without us. We need to begin to embrace change and take the necessary steps towards making it an advantage to us rather than a disadvantage to us. So it says that responding rather than reacting to change enables you to grow stronger for the next phase of your life. And we get to understand that when we say we are responding to change, it is about taking steps that allow you to be a victor of change rather than a victim of change. And when we look at a scripture from Proverbs chapter 6, it gives us some understanding of why, when we expect change to happen, we can take proactive steps to respond to it rather than wait and react to the change. So it talks about going to the ant, that popular scripture of going to the ant and learning from the ant. So Proverbs chapter 6, from the verse 6, it says, take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work, They labor hard all summer, gathering food for the winter. They labor hard all summer, gathering food for the winter. So it tells us that having this understanding that winter is coming, the ants work hard during the summer. So they respond to the inevitability of change rather than wait and then react when winter comes. So it tells us how when autumn, the weather gets cold, people get to know that a new season is coming. So we prepare for the winter by getting clothes, uh, dresses that are useful for the winter season, and by that we are able to protect ourselves while that new season comes, and we benefit from that new season because we prepared for it. We get the stocks that we need to stock up, and we do a number of things just to make sure that we are preparing for the new season that is coming. So if it's the dry season, and the rainy season will be coming very soon, if you are someone that understands the inevitability of change and the fact that the seasons change, the weather changes, things change, it may not change as you expect, but definitely change will come. You will make the necessary preparations to ensure that when the rainy season comes, you will know how to preserve yourself, when to move, how to move. You definitely know it will rain. So suppose you are going somewhere and it starts raining, what do you do? All these are part of what we make sure that we do in order for us to survive a new season that comes because of change. And if you are to engage fully in life, it says, then you must not ignore the truth about the future. And the future is unpredictable. There are chances that you may be able to know how things will unfold and all that. But there are also chances that you cannot really tell what tomorrow will bring. And therefore, it is important for you to be in charge of what you can be in charge of and make the right preparations to ensure that even if change comes, change that is unexpected, the future comes in a way that you don't expect, you'll still be able to benefit from the change that happens. So you either respond effectively to change or be a victim of change. And you have the power to determine the quality and effectiveness of your future by responding to change. So how can we respond to change? How can we make change a benefit to us rather than a disservice or disadvantage to us? There are a few ways that are outlined in the chapter, and we'll consider them briefly for this session. The first thing is for you to oversee change. So one of the key ways of responding to change is to oversee change. And overseeing change means that you are managing change. You have become like a foreman, or you become a manager, a supervisor of change. And it says that overseeing or managing change means that you have recognized and acknowledged change, but are also taking some practical steps to address it. You are currently engaged in assessing how you can best control its impending impact on your life. So this goes beyond one of the ways we discussed people react to change, which is accepting change. Overseeing change means that you have accepted the change first of all. You have accepted that something is changing, or something has changed, or something will be changing about your job, about your expertise, and the need for you to, level up in order to stay relevant and all that. You have accepted that change is needed, or change is coming, change is necessary. But you go beyond that acceptance to supervise how that change will affect you. And in problem solving, one of the key first steps that we talk about is being able to identify and define the problem. It is the first step in problem solving. If you are able to understand, identify that this is what the issue is specifically, yes, there's a general problem happening, but what exactly is the key thing that is wrong? And so identifying the main problem, the main issue, and defining it is you trying to find a way, practical way, that you will be able to manage that problem or control that problem so that even if it will have a negative impact, its impact will be minimal, or you will be able to do away or cancel out the negative impact that that change may bring. And if it is a change that is positive, you are able to direct how that change will affect you in a more helpful and positive way. So in overseeing change, you are taking the steps, you are positioning yourself in such a way that the change happens in a way that will benefit you, or that you are able to manipulate the change that is happening in order for it not to become a burden or a problem for you. So you are simply, as it says, controlling the change. You may not have, gotten to that point where the change will benefit you fully, or you will be able to use it effectively. But then it is the first key step of responding to change. So a step further from just accepting that change is happening or has happened, you are trying to manage the effect of that change. You have placed yourself in a position where you are taking steps to ensure that wherever the tide is turning, you are able to have a certain hold on how it is turning. And that is the first way of responding to change. The second way is that you can integrate yourself in change. Integrating yourself in change means that when change is happening to you, you become an active participator in its unfolding. It does not necessarily mean that you approve or support the change, but you understand that it is reality and you position yourself to move forward in life even in the midst of the change. So the Apostle Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians 4, the verse 8 to 12, that we are pressed on every side by troubles, but we are not crushed. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. We are hunted down, but never abandoned by God. We get knocked down, but we are not destroyed. Through suffering, our bodies continue to share in the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may be seen in our bodies. Yes, we live under constant danger of death because we serve Jesus, so that the life of Jesus will be evident in our dying. So we live in the face of death, but this has resulted in eternal life for you. So from 2 Corinthians 4, the verse 8 to the verse 11, he gives us a certain understanding that there's a lot happening, a lot of challenges, a lot of troubles, ones that they may have anticipated and ones that they didn't expect to happen. And he says that though we are hunted down, we know we are not abandoned by God. Though we are pressed on every side by troubles, we are not crushed. We are not driven to despair, although there's a lot of dumbfounding things that are happening to us. And so when you are able to integrate yourself in change, it means that you have this understanding that there's a lot that is going to happen for you and against you. And if I put myself as part of that change, I can, at the end of the day, navigate or control how the change is happening. So there are some overwhelming tides of change that will flow through your life or your society, and you must adapt to them and participate in the transitioning process instead of fighting them. So there's a way we talked about in the previous episode where people react to change by accommodating it or adjusting to the change. And we mentioned that that in itself may be a good thing, but you become a victim of change if all you do is to adjust your life so that change can happen. It is not about adjusting yourself to the change and then see how change happens. It is about making yourself a part of the change. This is different. You are making yourself part of the change. So the troubles that are happening, you make it a part of your life. So somebody will say that when lemons are thrown at you, make lemonades out of them. So you make the change that is happening, the negative and the positive changes that are happening, you make it a part of your process of becoming stronger. So when the disciples preach the message of Jesus boldly in the book of Acts, and the crowd was angry and wanted, these people to be stoned, these disciples to be stoned and put to death. Gamaliel, who was a Pharisee and a teacher of the law, warned the religious community, if it is from God, you will not be able to stop these men. You will only find yourself fighting against God. He was giving them this note of caution that there are certain changes that happen that you can really not stop. So if you want to fight against these people by stopping them, what you're actually doing is fighting against God. And who will fight against God and win? Romans 8:28 says that we know that all things work together for our good. It works together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So there are some changes that happen with us, around us, for us, against us, that are initiated according to God's purpose for our lives or for the life of other people. And such changes, all you need to do is to align yourself and become a part of the change, a part of the move, as we would say, so that you will benefit from the change and be able to navigate how this change affects your life. So you don't want to let change happen. You want to help change to happen. So there is a new order of things happening in the organization. There's a need to move into a more technology-driven, phase of the organization, as we used in the example from the previous episode. So instead of resisting that change because you think you were born before computer and you can still stick with your normal ways and things will progress, instead of ignoring the change that is happening and pretending like nothing is going on, instead of doing all those things, just adjusting or accommodating change so that it will happen, and you are just there changing your own ways to make sure you can still be in the organization without necessarily also getting the technical or technological skills training. Instead of doing that, you actually want to now make yourself a part of the change by taking the needed training. If you feel you are too old to be able to get all those technological issues that the younger people may be able to grasp better, how can I still fit in? Are there parts of that technology thing they are talking about that I can easily learn and be able to add to my skill set so that I remain relevant? You want to help the change to happen in your own little way so that at the end of the day, you can benefit from change rather than become a victim of change. So it says that those who will survive and benefit in the midst of change are those who understand their places in the process and participate fully in what the change was intended to deliver. So it talks about the example of where maybe a new political party comes into office, and there are some people who lost. So there are some people who were probably stood for the election and they lost. And these people say, you know what, I didn't win, so that is it. Um, Let these people do whatever they think they can do. I'm not going to support them, and they will fail. And then, yes, people will realize that I was the best choice. That is a dangerous way of participating in doom. You know, that is you accommodating change and letting it happen while you stand aloof. If you should participate, integrate yourself in the change you want to see. So, what are some of the ideas I had that will benefit the society I wanted to vote for me? I may not have gotten the power, but how do I make myself part of the people that got voted for? Rather than become their enemy, how can I contribute my ideas to them so that the new order that has come, though they may have their own ideas, I will have a way of contributing to the change that is happening. So instead of you saying I'm not getting involved, and some people saying I'll not vote again because these people are terrible, this one comes and does the same thing, they are all just corrupt and all that, I'm not going to work with these people. What you are doing is that you are going to allow change to happen nonetheless. The people will come, they will do whatever they need to do. If you were somebody that would have been industrious and you couldn't get voted for, because you stood aloof and decided that you will not contribute to whatever is happening, you realize that things will go bad. Things will go bad, and it will even be very difficult for you if chances in the future happen and you are voted for. You would come and inherit a mess because you stood aloof and couldn't integrate yourself in the change that is happening. And it tells us that the only problem is that change will happen either with you or without you. It is the process of life. So you need to decide whether you want to align yourself such that you can contribute to the change that is happening by becoming a part of it in whatever way. You may not be the one who is fully in charge, but you can be in the background and be making some changes in your community. You may be in the background and be, motivating the people to do this and that. There are minor issues within the community, within the organization. You may not have been chosen to be the second in command. You may not have been given a prominent leadership role. But how can I make myself a part of the new changes that are happening in this organization? As a cleaner, as whatever it is, as the accountant, as the cashier, as the human resource manager, as the driver, how can I make myself a part of this change that is happening? So that at the end of the day, it's like the results that will come accruing to the society, accruing to the organization, whatever it is, whether negative or positive, I would be able to say that I was part of this change that happened. Point number 3 in responding to change is that you can prepare and plan for change. And this is one of the highest levels of responding to change. And as we discussed or mentioned earlier from the scripture in Proverbs chapter 6, it says that go and learn from the ants. Learn from them. They work hard all through the summer, gathering food for the winter. That is you being able to prepare and then planning for change. There are some changes you may not be able to plan for, but there are some that you can plan for. You can anticipate them and make the plan. But you know what? Even the ones that you cannot anticipate, with the right kind of preparation and the right kind of planning, when they happen, you will not struggle as other people who are unprepared. Some people will say that luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So somebody is not just lucky. They didn't get up and become a one-day wonder. I think I read a quote. I don't know whether it is truly he that said it, but I read a quote some time back where Lionel Messi was saying that he did a lot in the background, worked hard, did a lot of training, did went the extra mile and all that, and that is what made him a one day wonder, so to speak. So that sounds a bit um, um, incongruent, or looking like, saying two things that are opposing to each other. But that is the fact. Some people did not just wake up one day and suddenly became, who they are. The greatness they achieved is an accumulation of a lot of preparation in the ground, doing a lot of things that people never saw, preparing themselves. And then one day they got one opportunity, and then that was it. So the best response to change, it says, changes that happen to you, around you, and within you, is for you to anticipate them ahead of time, because you can prepare for only what you expect. And though change can be sudden and surprising sometimes, you can still plan for it. A constructive response to the inevitability of change is to prepare your mind, your emotions, your family, your finances, and so forth for a number of eventualities. So you may not be able to tell that today, as you are going out, maybe you lose your money. But someone who has prepared beforehand, knowing that there are inevitabilities when it comes to life, would have in mind what kind of response would be suited to you losing some money, for instance. If you're going for an interview, yes, you may not be able to tell or predict how that interview will go, but somebody who has this attitude of preparing and planning for change because of its inevitability would have a plan on how to respond, for instance, if the panel is very rude, or there's somebody particularly who is getting on their nerves and all that. You don't know exactly how things will pan out, but you have prepared your mind, prepared your emotions, and made sure that you have a certain understanding of how things should go in case something unexpected happens. And that is important. Preparing and planning for change. And it says that planning enables you to go beyond mere oversight of change when it arrives. Instead, you can orchestrate it to work for your benefit. You can put in sound overall plans motivated by the mindset that change is a way of life. So it does not mean that you are living your life anticipating that things will go wrong and all that. You are not engaging in a cognitive distortion we call catastrophizing, where you expect things to always go bad and all that. That is not what this means. Preparing and planning for change, knowing that change can happen with you, around you, for you, against you, and it could be positive or negative, is having the mindset that anything can happen, and because of that, I need to always be prepared for the inevitable. It protects your emotions, and it protects you as a person, so that when change happens, you will be able to know exactly how to go about it. In the moment, it may take you as a surprise, but you will be able to gather yourself. And in some instances, you will not be surprised, because you have this mindset that change is a way of life. And it tells us some 4 key benefits of planning and preparing for change. And in other chapters subsequently, we will go deeper into all these things about planning and preparing for change, and how to properly and practically respond to change. So the 4 key benefits of planning and preparing for change are it helps to reduce your anxiety, your stress, and your fear. Number two, it helps you to gain greater control over your circumstances and environment. Number three, it increases your confidence. And number four, it makes change your servant. And we get to understand how when you feel you are prepared, when you feel that when things go wrong or things go right, you are mentally in the right place to be able to handle it. It helps to reduce your anxiety in various situations, in a lot of situations, because there's no pressure on you. You know that you have developed the right skill sets, for instance. You know that you have developed the right social networks. You know that you have developed the right mental, strength. You have prepared yourself for the inevitability of change. And you are able to control yourself, control your emotions, and be able to take charge when circumstances change and when things happen within and without you. And it gives you a lot of confidence when you can feel that, no matter what happens, I know that I'll find a way around it. And that makes you a victor of change, a master over change, rather than a servant to change. So there's one thing here that I find interesting, and I think it's something that personally I have grown to to have as a habit. Every opportunity I have, I want to use it to read something, find out something, search for some information. When I'm going to work, as I'm in the traffic, I'm on my phone. I'm searching something, I'm reading something. So by the time I get to work, whatever I need to do, I have already gathered some information, and I will typically type in my phone's notes. If I have a presentation to do somewhere, as I'm on my way going, if I get there and it hasn't started, I get back to my machine. I want to use every space I get to make sure that I do something that can help me to have more time subsequently, if I need to do another thing. So Dr. Myles says here that I have trained myself as I go through my day to continually think ahead to what kind of change might happen to me and how I can best respond. And this is not worrying, it is constructive preparation. So he talked about how if he's booked a plane, for a travel, and something happens, and the flight has to be delayed for 2 hours. He would get to his his laptop and start reviewing his notes or planning a new material altogether for another talk. So making use of the time, that 2 hours of delay, using it for something else that will be productive and help you in moving forward to the future, rather than complaining and sitting idly and all the time, being wasted away with you, waiting to get on the flight. While everyone is sitting around complaining, he says that I am producing something, making sure that whatever time that is there, whatever change that happens, including change that you didn't even expect, you'll be able to make that change to work for you. To work for you. The fourth key thing in responding to change is that you initiate change. So this is where you look around you. If you are a worker in an organization, you look around you and try to figure out, what can I change? What initiative can I set out with? And then at the end of the day, this change will lead to some benefit to myself, to the organization, and at the end of the day, I'll be an initiator of change rather than one who waits for change to happen. So when you initiate change, you are responding to change by realizing its potential and power and by actively creating it to further your vision and goals for your life based on your purpose. And we get to see two main what change means, initiating change means from two main perspectives. Number one, you determine what changes in your life and environment will best serve the purposes you have been called to fulfill on earth, and then you order your life and environment according to these best interests. So it is about finding problems around you within your environment and trying to initiate steps that can help change those things to suit your purpose, to suit your goals and your aspirations in life. There are some people that have started certain businesses because they identify within their life that there's a gap, and they identify within their environment that there's a need. And then they took the step to start off that business, that project, that particular thing that has led them to become who they are today. So it is about determining what changes you can make to your personal life. If you are a student, you look at things around your personal academic life and find out what can I do about probably my time of study, probably about my friendships and all that. What can I do to change something that will result in a better output for me? You have become an initiator of change, so much so that your life and your progress determines how your environment is, rather than your environment and other people determining how your progress looks like. And we all have a purpose for which God created us, and He has given us a lot of potential that can be used fully to benefit ourselves and to others. And in our initial two books on potential, we understood the power of the potential God has given us and how we can release them. So you can initiate change. Look around you. What are the things that I can cause to change so that it will benefit me and benefit my society? So the chapter ends with a word of encouragement to us to be a world changer. I challenge you to become someone who initiates change, who makes things happen to fulfill your purpose, and who contributes your particular gifts to your generation. And this is a word of encouragement from Dr. Myles to each one of us. There are people who say, I am open to change as long as it doesn't affect me, as long as it doesn't cost me anything. But all change will cost you something, even if it's just the loss of the familiar, the habits you need to let go, the things that you cherish that you need to let go, the friends that you need to let go, the tastes that you need to let go. There will definitely be a cost if change is to happen. So whether you initiated the change or it is happening to you, against you, for you, around you, something will be lost. So we must be willing to let go of what isn't working for us, consciously, personally determining that things that are not working for us, things that are hindering us, we will change them so that we can pursue what is better for us, what is best for us. The scripture encourages us to let go of every weight that easily entangles us. There are many weights that may be entangling you, pulling you back. It is up to you to be an initiator of the change that causes those weights to leave you so that you can make progress. You want to be a world changer. Says, are you willing to let go of the past and become proactive about the future? If so, you are ready to become a world changer. The chapter ends with this quote from Pablo Picasso: "I am always doing that which I cannot do in order that I may learn how to do it." If there's something that is difficult for you, probably you don't know how to speak in public, you feel you are shy, you don't have what it takes, do it. Do it. Um, it's called reciprocal inhibition. So you are doing the opposite of, you are doing exactly what you think you cannot do, and in the process of doing it you would have gained mastery. So if I feel I cannot talk in public, stand in front of people, take advantage of opportunities to be able to speak to people, starting from children, starting from people I know. Whilst you are doing that, you are initiating by yourself a change in how you are able to speak to people. You have changed something about yourself that you yourself initiated. So there are things that we feel we cannot do, steps we feel are too high for us to take. It is up to us to initiate the changes around us, with us, that will cause us to become the best versions of ourselves. And this brings us to the end of the chapter. I hope that you have learned something useful from the chapter. And as we proceed in the next few chapters, we'll go into further detail about how to make change your servant, how you can be a victor of change rather than a victim of change. In this chapter, we have learned that you can initiate change, you can prepare and plan for change, you can integrate yourself into change, and you can oversee change. These are key ways that you can respond to change and make change your servant rather than you being a servant to change. I hope you stay safe, and as always, remain a blessing. Bye bye.